Good morning, Richard Calhoun, Creekside Realty, here to discuss Silicon Valley real estate market, week number 19. If you notice, the purple line is down quite a bit. This is the sale price to list price distribution of overbidding. What that's indicating is that approximately 5 weeks ago, when the offers were negotiated, the buyers were feeling significantly less pressure. Just a week ago, we were on this burnt orange line, which is up here. Just 1 week ago, they were on the burnt orange line that you can see right through here, and then it sort of disappears. And then it pops up right here again, I think, and then you can see it down here. It's darker than the what I call the orange line. So the dark orange line is where we were basically 1 week ago, and now we're down at the purple. So that's a pretty significant change in 1 week, but these changes occurred 5 weeks ago when the offers were negotiated, not just recently. The worst month we ever had was down here, and the best week we ever had was up here. So you're still up in the very good range, but you have had a change. Same data set, just only 12 weeks. So now you can see that the current week is the worst week out of the last 12 weeks. So noteworthy. And again, this is a lag time of 5 weeks roughly, because we need to get closing data. This is very interesting data. You have the available inventory here, the blue line, and you can see that we have gone up the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we were down here. Last week, we were right about there. And this week, we're up here. But what's interesting is from last week to this week, the number of new offers dropped dramatically despite new inventory coming on the marketplace. So what that suggests for one of the first times is the buyers are no longer absorbing the new inventory coming on the marketplace, because what you would have expected was, with the increased number of new listings up here, the gray line, you would have expected the number of new offers to go up slightly. So I've expected it to be up here just about on the gray line. Instead, the number of new offers went the other direction by a significant amount. For whatever reason, the buyers are no longer absorbing the new inventory coming on the marketplace a week later. Now we're looking at days of unsold inventory, and I introduced the concept of an increase of 5 days for every week, and that was the light line here, the thin line. In fact, the blue line is what the data actually did, which is much steeper. So that's a red flag of, hey, potential market change. But then you have to look at normally the yellow line here, which is the 5-year median, 2015 through 2019, is normally shooting up. And why is it normally shooting up at this time of the year? Well, there's 2 significant holidays, Mother's Day and Memorial Day. And you're also in the late spring, early summer of sellers rushing onto the marketplace. And when the sellers rush onto the marketplace, the DUI goes up. So this is when the DUI, you can see normally on a 5-year median, is approaching my alarm bell of 5 days per week. It's probably something like 4 days. And now you're steeper than that. The other thing that's complicating this is the spread between Mother's Day and Memorial Day is normally, I think it's 15 days, 5 out of the 7 possibilities. And then 2 out of the possibilities, it's 22 days. This is one of the 22-day years. We have an unusual year, and what impact that has on the data is hard to decide when you're only looking at a few years of data. Again, it's a concern seeing the steepness of this line moderated by the steepness of the normal 5-year median at the same time frame. It's one of those things where you go, what's really going on? And it's hard to really determine that. Now we're looking at the breakdown, and you're looking at the inventory. In single-family homes in Santa Clara County, you can see that it increased from 85.5 basically to 90, somewhere around a 4.5% increase in the available inventory. Look at what happened in San Mateo County inventory. We went from 93% to 113%, like that, of single family homes. That's a 20% increase of available inventory in 1 week. Then we come down and we look at Santa Clara County condos, and you went from 120.5% to 146%. So call it a 25% increase in available inventory. And then you get totally blown away by the base cities that went from 200%. And I've talked about why that's been at 200%. And that's because of the building practices in that area. Now, all of a sudden, you jump to 400%. So your inventory doubled of Bay City condos in San Mateo County in a 1 week period of time. For those that have been following me for a while, notice that I've added in a whole new column here, and it's not the way I want it yet, but it's going to get there. It's number of sales that are happening. Normally, I just looked at DUI, but I mean, I have the supply side of the equation. I might as well look at the demand side of the equation instead of just jumping right to the ratio between the two. And you can see in Santa Clara County single-family homes last week, we had 244 sales. This week, we only had 169. So you've lost 75 transactions in a 1 week period of time. That's roughly a third of the volume of the business disappearing in 1 week in the largest marketplace, Santa Clara County single family home. You can't ignore that, and you got to pay attention to it. That's all I can say. It's very noteworthy. Then you come down to single family homes in San Mateo County. They also dropped. They dropped 11 from 83 to 72. Not as dramatic drop. It's only about 15%, but still a 15% drop in 1 week is enough to catch at least my attention. Santa Clara County condos, basically unchanged, 94 to 92. That's just normal fluctuations that are going on all the time. And Bay Cities went 22 to 14, a 33% drop. So that's very dramatic. You've lost a third of your sales and you've doubled your inventory. So that DUI has skyrocketed theoretically, but yet the DUI remains unchanged, which I do not understand. And that's got to be an error somewhere in my equations that I got to go back and look at, because you can't have a drop in your sales and a dramatic increase in your inventory and turn around and say your DUI is unchanged. That just doesn't make any sense. So clearly something isn't right with this one data set for some reason, which is unknown at this point. So now we look at DUI for the biggest micro market area. Santa Clara County single family homes went from 25 to 31. That's pretty significant. That's 6-day increase, which is steeper than the 5-day increase that I say is the key on determining a change in the marketplace. So this is a red flag here. And again, that's the biggest micro market area. San Mateo County single family, 23 to 627 almost, an increase of 4, just under the threshold. At this time of the year, that wouldn't alarm me, because this is a slowing down in the marketplace, because the sellers typically come on the marketplace at this time of the year, as you saw from that 5-year median. Santa Clara County condos went up again about 5 days in a week. Again, that would normally raise my flag. I'm not so sure that I'd raise it because of the time of the year we are in, and we've talked about this being an error. Now we're jumping back to closing, so it's going to be like a completely different world here, because we're going back 4 or 5 weeks in time, and so you basically are unchanged. 91% of the sellers getting more than they're asking, down to 89 and a half, 86% up to 89%. So just normal fluctuations, 90% down to 88%, 77% up to 78%, just normal weekly fluctuations. And that again is 5 weeks ago, roughly, not comparing apples and apples. This dramatic change in the inventory and the dramatic change in offers is stuff that's happened in the last week that would not be reflected in any of the closed data yet. The magnitude of overbidding is down a little bit. That's the pressure coming off that the interest rates going up. But again, anytime you're getting 15% or 10% for condos above your asking price, things are pretty good. And it looks like I lost my last column when I snuck in the additional column over here. But what we are showing here is the appreciation over the entire calendar year 2020. Since 2020, you've had a 42% appreciation in price for Santa Clara County single family homes, 38% for San Mateo, 34% for condos, and townhouses is 11%. And the reason this is in a blue font is the data that got truncated over here was actually higher than 11. I think it was almost 16%. So in the last year, the Bay City condos have actually lost value. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they lost value, but it means that they've come down in price for the median. So it could be a shift in the market mix. What I'm trying to do here, new slide, real rough, I'm trying to just compare apples and apples because of the dramatic drop in offers accepted. So what I'm looking at here is essentially last week, April 30th through May 6th of each of the different years, 15, 16, 17. So this is not going my normal Saturday to Friday. This is changing, but full 7-day week, one Monday, one Sunday, one day of every week. So you can see that going from last week to this week in 15, you had a 20% increase. 16 was flat, 17 was flat, 18 was flat, 19 was flat. 20, we're not really going to look at because that was COVID. 21 was essentially flat. So there's no indication of a trend one way or the other over the last 7 years of what happened with sales. And then you look at this year, and this looks like it's Santa Clara County single family homes only. We went from 255 to 170, which means we've lost a full third of the number of offers that were accepted last week over what we would have expected to have. Here we're looking at the number of offers. I've done it two different ways. I did May 1st through May 7th, but and this is on focusing on offers accepted, and you can see the history. I'm going to have to start dropping off the top lines now. But once I did that and saw the change, I said, that's too old data, going back almost a full week, because I was going to do the first of the month through the 7th, the 7th, 8th through the 14th, etc. So I decided to go from the 6th through the 13th and do the data. So you can see that in the last 6 days, we went from 1,203 offers accepted to 900. So again, very consistent, a huge drop in the number of offers accepted in single family homes in Santa Clara County. Basically, here it's about 25%, but you're only shifting by 6 days. And then you can see the makeup. And the key here is to see where we've gone. And, basically we were at the second best year, second only to 2021, which was artificially high, recovering from COVID. And then more recently, you can see we've been thirds, and at 927, you're in a solid set third place, and you're significantly above the fourth place. So, it's still a good year, but it's a dramatic drop because these numbers were way up. So what does this sort of suggest? It suggests that the volume that was COVID related may actually now be waning, and we may be coming back to sort of these normal years of 807 transactions, 803, 849, 767, 837, all of which 927 beats. So even though it's dramatic to lose that many offers in 1 week period of time, when you look back historically over 15 through 21, which were good years, all of them, including COVID, essentially, I'm not so sure it's time to raise the alarm bells. Again, trying to understand things. This is a table that I added maybe 2 weeks back, and I'm adding in some additional information. What we're looking at now is single family homes. We're looking at the change. The blue font on percent change would tend to say the market's cooling. So we're looking at the new listings. So you can see across the board, the number of new listings went up everywhere except for condos in Santa Clara County. And this is the percent they went up. This week, for example, in Santa Clara County, we had 323 new homes, single family homes in Santa Clara County come on the marketplace. Last year, we only had 279. So that's an increase of essentially 16%. Then you come down to total active inventory. You can see we're at 942, up from 807. So you had a 17% increase in the total inventory. And that's the second highest. The only one that outperformed was San Mateo County, but it's such a smaller area, about half the number of transactions, that the 17% increase in Santa Clara County single family homes is what is going to drive the global Silicon Valley real estate marketplace. This number I'm starting to think is pretty irrelevant. It's simply the number of new listings to the all listings for each of the 2 weeks. No real dramatic change anywhere, and I'm not sure what it predicts. It was just something I thought of. A number of offers accepted. You can sort of see the huge drop, 29.8% drop from last week to this week. That's the biggest drop, and it's also the biggest micro market area. Most of the area saw about a 15% decrease. Overall, if you're looking in single family homes, it's a 20% decrease, condos a 12% decrease. So again, very significant, but are we just getting rid of the extra volume that we've had for the last 2 years? DUI. Here you're looking at the percent increase. So Santa Clara County single family homes, a huge increase on a percentage basis, going from, it's almost doubling. And I think I might have that ratio wrong, because it should be higher than 1, but the percentage isn't as important as the raw count. So you can see the raw count went up 15. Now, that's where the alarm bell should be sounding for everybody. Where's the 5 and 6 days we're talking about? The difference is that's on a 5-week moving average, where you're looking at the number of offers accepted over a 5-week period of time. Because when you look at 1 week, which is this data is doing, the fluctuation from week to week is so great that it becomes noise and it distracts you. But a 15-day increase is significant. You can see it's the biggest area by far. It's, again, a little less than double the area, the increase of the other areas. But single family overall for the 4 counties, because I've added in Contra Costa and Alameda County to this, it allows buyers that are looking in the entire Bay Area to pick market conditions, pick what's happening, those kinds of things. Moving on to closings, you have the number of closings, and this is going to be historical data now because you have to wait for the escrow period 4 or 5 weeks for the typical escrow to close. But the number of escrows that closed last week, the days on marketplace. So these are all going to be lagging indicators. 87% of the sellers getting more than their asking price, 114%. But again, the main purpose of this slide is for people to be able to compare this to other counties. These are a series of 5 new slides I've done. I did this based on input from a listener, and it's actually somewhat interesting. You're looking at the number of new listings in the blue line. You're looking at the number of new offers in the gold line, the orange line. So where the real takeaway is here in the current time, basically since 2021, we've had more new listings come on the market every single week than we've had offers accepted. And the other time we had this was, recently was back here in 19. A lot of times the blue line sort of like, on top of the orange line. So the separation is pretty significant. I'm a little surprised it hasn't shown up in the global data before this, but then you look at the number of closings here, and now the number of closings is just over the number of new offers accepted. So some of the sales here had taken offers accepted, took a while to close, and they're closing here. And now you know that the number of new closings has to drop because the number of new closings cannot be above the number of new offers for any extended period of time. But the takeaway are you now have more new listings than ever on the marketplace in the last 4 years. And I do have this going back to 2015, but it got so crammed horizontally that I broke it down just through 5 to 19. And you can see the annual trend every year. And there's difference. Here's COVID slowdown, Christmas slowdown, Christmas slowdown, Christmas slowdown. So, and then COVID slowdown. 4 years, you're having 5 slowdowns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's a very normal annual cycle, which is why I try to compare everything from year to year. Here's looking at DUI. I put in a lot of the 5-day increase in DUI in a week to give you an idea. So you can see the New Year's slowdown here in 19 was steeper than my 5-year benchmark. In 20, it was right at the benchmark. The COVID slowdown was steeper than the 5-day per week. The 2021 Christmas New Year slowdown was right at 5 days. 2022 was a little steeper. And now you come out here to the current data. And if you go back 4 weeks, we're not quite as steep, but you're pretty close. And I did the math here. 4 weeks ago, we were at 16, 17 days of unsold inventory. Now, 4 weeks later, at 5 days, you should be at 36 to really raise the alarm bells. So that's, quite a bit higher than the 29 that we're at. The only reason we're not at the level was this 1 week here where there was basically almost no increase in the DUI. This week qualifies. This last week very much qualifies, but this week here saves us from not qualifying. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And that's why I use 4 times 5. Here's looking at days on market, which is a very laggy indicator. And this is why I invented days of unsold inventory. You can see there's been a little upward pressure on the median and the average is still coming down. So even though the market appears to be slowing fairly dramatically over the last 4 weeks, the days on market, if that was the benchmark that you were using, the market would be basically unchanged or still improving. This is the overbidding situation. So you have the sale price to list price ratio here. So you'd read that off the left-hand axis. In fact, the blue and orange lines are going to be off the left-hand axis. The gray line, the frequency of overbidding, is going to be off the right-hand axis. Frequency of overbiddings right now at record highs, somewhere around 90%, and actually went up. But both your average and median magnitude of overbidding are coming back down. We peaked out just right around April 1st, and we peaked out around 15% and somewhere just above 13% for the average and median. And now you're down somewhere around 111 and a quarter and 113 and a half, something like that. So still very respectable numbers, basically at record levels, except for this year, but the trend is clearly down. The frequency of overbidding is up there pretty strongly. So people are still overbidding as often, they're just not bidding as much over. This is sold price, clearly a lagging indicator I put in there just because people are interested in it. The 90 percentile is the most expensive. You have a lot more price fluctuation. When you get down to the median, you have the more stable because you're in the center of your bell curve, and you can see the rapid increase that we had earlier this year, and prices are still increasing. And then the lower end, the cheapest 10% in an area. With that, we'll take a pause, see if anyone's got any questions for me, and then we'll go on. I will do a little recap of these URLs. The green is what I call my root URL. That's where you go and get the archives on YouTube. You add in Silicon Valley Real Estate Market Graphs 2022, just the letters. So just 2, 4, 6 letters and 4-digit for the year, and you get to this live presentation. And then if you add in the letter H and the 8-digit year, month, date code, you'll get the handout. I did get it up about 11 minutes before the hour. I tried for 15. I was a little late because of all the additions. And then if you want to get to a specific past presentation, you just add in the year, month, date code. Now we're looking back into some of the details. This is a mistake here. I did not update this. This is data from the 14th. I can tell because Saratoga Los Gatos now is very, very faint pink shade. San Mateo County remains the only completely white area. These numbers are all days of unsold inventory for the micro market area. Don't have them from just last week, but anybody that has a memory can remember these numbers were much lower. The color of intensity was much higher. I don't remember condos off the top of my head, but clearly still a seller's marketplace. I would even say a strong seller's marketplace. Basically anything under 40 days of unsold inventory is a strong seller's marketplace. And county-wide for Santa Clara County, you're at 31. For San Mateo County-wide, you're at 28. Those are very strong marketplaces. It's hard to explain that we were so superheated that even though there's a dramatic shift this last week, even with that dramatic shift, we're still in a superheated marketplace. The reason I'm cautious in pointing all this stuff out is if that trend continues, it won't be long at all before we're in a balanced marketplace and then into a buyer's marketplace. If the trend continues, it could be a 1-week fluctuation. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. There's the difference in timing by a different week this year. And I think it's 2022 and 2016 had the 22 days between Mother's Day and Memorial Day, where all your other years only had 15. What's that got to do with anything? Every holiday negatively impacts real estate except for Valentine's Day and Mother's Day, which have a positive impact. When you start moving with those time frames, it could fluctuate a lot of this data. This is your frequency of overbidding. This is how common it is for sellers to receive more than their asking price. Foster City's at 100%, very small micro market area. Redwood City, which is not, and Bay Cities, which is not, at a little over 95%. Very high frequency of overbidding. Condos are almost as high in the mid to 80s to low 90s for the most part. The magnitude of overbidding is coming down a little bit. We had a lot of 120s before, 118, 119s. Now you're 116s. You still have 122 in Cupertino, 104 in the expensive areas. So again, these are coming down a little bit, not dramatically. The condos, I don't pay that much attention to condos, so I don't know, but this number seems to be a little bit higher. Especially, it's definitely higher than it was at the beginning part of the year, but I think it's a little bit higher than it was even just a week or two ago. Here is sale price, again, lagging indicator. Middle number is median, which is what most people follow. That's what the color is assigned up to. The cheapest color here would be East San Jose, Central San Jose at $1.3 million. And then as you go up in price, the blue becomes less intense until you hit the median price for the Bay Area, which is in Redwood City at $2.5 million. And then you go up to start going pink in color as you continue to go up to price. The highest area is the expensive areas in San Mateo County at $5.4 million. On condos, I take the highest area and assign that white, that's $1.4 million, and then go down to the lower numbers are all blue in color. Here is looking at total active inventory available. The yellow line is the 5-year median, and you can see we were quite a bit below, and you can see the inventory available has come up in the last couple of weeks. Now we're getting pretty close. That's the closest we've been in a long time. This is the number of new listings. This is actually a little surprising to me because with the number of new listings being right where you'd expect it to be, I'm a little surprised that the new inventory has jumped up. But the reason the new inventory jumped up is because the number of sales has dropped down. Here's your number of new offers, and here you can see it dropping down for Easter wasn't unexpected. The recovery was not unexpected, but last week and this week is really unexpected. And you can see that we're now below any time along this line. So this is starting to, the drop in the number of new offers is the thing that's really standing out. And it's mostly confined to Santa Clara County single family homes. Here's your days of unsold inventory over time. Here's my slope of 5 days per week. And you can see right through this section, it's, basically right at the 5 days per week. Then we had the little respite. But these dots here, the reason they're here is I do this every single day of the week as far as calculations. So for the last week, the DUI has been rising very steeply. And that's what starts to concern me. We don't even have a week of this rise yet, but this rate of rise of all three components is what should concern anybody that benefits from having owned real estate. The fact that, you own property now. If you're a buyer, that rising days of unsold inventory is your key to potentially a future buyer's marketplace. Here's your days of unsold inventory in the different geographical areas done out map wise. The lower the number, the redder the color. So some of your reddest areas are now at 14, 15 days. The no color is from 42 to 77. And so you have two areas now, Saratoga, Los Gatos, as well as the expensive areas in San Mateo County that are balanced. I will mention South County is pretty close at 40. For those that have been with me before COVID, I normally would assign Saratoga, Los Gatos 75 to 150, as well as Morgan Hill, that same 75 to 150 instead of 40 to 80. But with the speed of which I came on with this and color coding, I'm using the same color coding for all of them. It just is something to be noteworthy now that we're getting further up into more normal market numbers. Here's your frequency of overbidding. The left side is 2022, the right side is 2021. Very respectable, basically still tied for the record high numbers that we haven't seen before this year. This is the frequency over time, so you can see you're way up here. And even though I only go back to 2020, these are record high numbers. We've never been up in these numbers before this year. Last year was record, and we were basically at 80%, 70%, depending on the type of property you're talking about. This is the map showing the frequency of overbidding. Frequency of overbidding is remaining very common. It's just buyers are not bidding as much over as they had been. Here's the magnitude of overbidding. So you can see the magnitude has come down. So you went from 116% to 112%. So you've had a 4% decrease in the magnitude, which is a 25%, if you look at just the amount over 100%. And the frequency of overbidding really has not changed much at all. Here's the magnitude over time. So you can see that we came up, we plateaued, and then just right here, Santa Clara County in the red started coming down, and San Mateo. Condos are still fairly flat. They tend to be a slower moving marketplace and tend to lag the single family homes. The magnitude of overbidding based on the different geographical areas, same concept. The redder the color, the hotter, the more overbidding, more common it is. These are all median prices. Red line is Santa Clara County single family homes. Gray line is San Mateo County, and yellow line is condos in Santa Clara County. Sale price distribution, same concept, 10 percentile on the left, median in the middle, which is what the color is assigned by. Number on the right is the highest 10 percentile. So you can quickly find out what price range a given area is. Here is looking at the appreciation over the entire calendar year of 2020. The yellows are new records or tied for old records. So you can see that we're still hitting record pricing, even though the market appears to be slowing a little bit because in the lag time. Now we're looking at the last 35 days for the 2022. Everything else is comparing June 5th. So we're not comparing apples and apples. And I'd expect inventory to go up more. But now we have 914. So we're no longer the lowest inventory available. Your number of sales or DUI is at 31, up significantly from last year. 31 is, up, 2017 now beats this year. It's basically tied for 18 and also 13 and also 12. So, we're no longer at the superheated that we've been at before. We're sort of returning to somewhat more normal of a good year. The number of sales that I started talking about a second ago, under 30, again, nowhere near the tops. In fact, it's one of the lowest numbers on here. The only number that's lower than that is 2020 with COVID. That's actually a little bit alarming. I would expect this number to go up though between now and June 5th when all these other data points are taken. So that would not necessarily alarm me because I had expected to be going up. Your overbidding and frequency and magnitude are still basically at record high numbers, and your prices are essentially at record high numbers at almost $2 million. And for those that want to compare apples and apples, this is doing that, but it's April data that was collected on May the 6th. So it's sort of looking in the rear view mirror, which is not at all what we're talking about what was happening today. And with that, we're back to the URLs, and I'll see if anyone's got any questions, and I'll go ahead and explain these URLs again. The green is what I call my base URL. That gets you to the archive on YouTube. If you add in 2022 for the year, so another 6 months from now it'll be 2023, but you add in the year and you get to the presentation live Saturday morning at 9 a.m. If you add in H for handout and the 8-digit year, month, date code, you get the handout on a PowerPoint. It is 31 slides today, significantly because I've added some new ones trying to understand what was going on. And then if you want to get to a specific presentation, the root URL and the 8-digit year, month, date code. And with that, I'm not seeing any questions, so I will call it a day. And everybody have a nice week. Take care. See you. Bye for now.